do want to tell you about this crazy new lawsuit that has come out. Several COVID-19 victims' families. So these are family members of people who died from COVID-19. A group of them are suing EcoHealth Alliance for funding and releasing the virus. This is what they're alleging, that EcoHealth Alliance funded and released the virus, and they are now suing. Now, why this is important is because we're going to end up getting information. It always takes a lawsuit to finally get information about what really happened, right? We can guess. We know that there was definitely funding that flowed from the NIH to EcoHealth Alliance. We do know that EcoHealth Alliance was doing a bunch of testing on various viruses in Wuhan at the Institute of Virology there. We know that there's this kind of this tracing of the funds. What we do not know is exactly what EcoHealth Alliance was working on, which viruses. We don't know whether or not the viruses they worked on led to, either were directly this coronavirus or led to other development that maybe led to the testing and development of COVID-19 in the lab. So this is assuming COVID-19 was in fact developed in a lab and released in a lab. Then the question is, what role did EcoHealth Alliance play in that? And that would then lead back to what role did the U.S. government have in it? Because if they were funding that research, then that's obvious. And then, the virus leaks from the lab and we ended up with the pandemic. Obviously, heads should roll, right? So the families of 4 people who died from COVID-19 are now suing. They're saying that this was not accidental, but that they created the virus and they released it. They're saying they could have released it potentially accidentally, but it was because they were working on it, not accidentally, and that maybe it got out there. So we're going to find out through this. Now it's going to take a long time. So this is going to be a lawsuit that we follow over the period of time, but it could be potentially that we finally get some discovery in this case. And that is when the families that are suing, if this continues in the court, will be able to ask for certain documents that EcoHealth Alliance has, some internal documents, internal studies, research, and we might end up with a treasure trove of documents from EcoHealth Alliance that points us in the right direction and gives us more information on whether or not they had anything to do with COVID-19, with that virus, with that SARS-CoV-2 virus, and whether or not the U.S. government actually then funded that. The family's attorney said, if we had known, because a lot of people say, well, okay, but you died of the virus. That's unfortunate, but maybe would you have died either way if it was released, if it was a natural virus or a lab leak virus? Doesn't matter, because you have to show in a case harm, and that the harm would not have happened had the person not done what they had done, right? So they say, well, if we had known the source of the origin of this virus and had not been misled that it was from a pangolin in a wet market, and rather we knew that it was a genetically manipulated virus and that the scientists involved were concealing that from our clients, the outcome could have been very different, is what they're saying. So that's a good thing to think about. Would it have been different? So they were telling us for that first, however long, definitely the first year, that it did not come from a lab. How dare you even think that? In fact, you were censored if you even dared utter that it came from a lab. They demanded that we believed it came from a pangolin in a wet market. Had they said it came from a lab, so just imagine this for a moment. It's the beginning of 2020. This virus is out there. And we find out definitively this sucker leaked from a lab. They were working on some crazy crap, and now we ended up with this virus that's circulating around. Ask yourself and be honest, would you have behaved differently? Would you have thought differently? Would you have behaved differently? Would you have, would you have approached the whole pandemic differently? I'm going to say, yes, I think I would have. I think I would have behaved a bit differently. I think I would have been more afraid. Actually, if I would have known it came from a lab, I would have worried about what in the hell were they doing in this lab? What were they trying to make? Is this a biological weapon? I think there would have been a lot more questions about that, because there was definitely a chance, a high chance that this was naturally occurring. Now we know there's more of a chance it came from a lab, but there's always novel viruses that crop up and circulate around, and it's because they just mutated, and nature does that. And that's the way it's always been with viruses. So in my mind, it was more, okay, this is just another one of those natural viruses that is circulating around. And so why is everybody freaking out? I mean, this is just the way it's been, the way it's always going to be, and you can't outrun a virus. Had, though, it been for sure that it came from a lab and that this was maybe potentially a biological weapon, I think a lot more people would have been much more afraid, and I think would have maybe stayed in their homes and been a lot more cautious about spreading around a biological weapon versus just spreading around a virus, when viruses spread all the time. And we have pandemics and epidemics, quite often, every few years, actually. So that's what they're claiming. They would have behaved differently had they believed that the source of the virus would have come from somewhere else, and then perhaps they wouldn't have lost their lives. They wouldn't have caught it in the first place, potentially. Kind of hard to say, though. So we're going to follow this case and see how it goes, because what it could lead to is a lot of that information, and that's information everybody's going to be salivating over. So we're definitely going to be following that, absolutely, for sure. That being said, COVID cases are rising this summer. Apparently, everyone's catching COVID again. They're saying that it's a new variant. It's called Eris, EIRS. And they're claiming that fall boosters are now just around the corner. So don't you worry. You're going to get another shot of the vaccine to help stop the spread, because the fall boosters are really going to help us right now when COVID cases are spiking right now. I do know several people right now with COVID, and now they're saying that these fall boosters. What's interesting about this, though, is, there's a couple of questions with now COVID back on the rise. They're first of all saying Eris, we have to be worried about Eris because it might be more transmissible and it might be more deadly. These are we're hearing this again about this new variant. One question, are they going to bring back masks? What are the chances? What do you think? Are they going to start saying, we got to wear the masks again, everybody? It's time. Put them back on. You can't go anywhere. You can't come into my store without a mask on. My guess is in certain parts of the country, like where I live in Los Angeles, yeah, there's going to be some mask mandates that are back in place. I would love to think that we're over it, that people are going to just wear them if they want to wear them, that it becomes optional. But my guess is there might be some stores and places that say yes. I don't know if the government will do that, though. But then again, crazier things have happened. The second question is, why are they rolling out these fall boosters and saying, well, you're going to get your booster, and they're going to be mandating this for a lot of different places that are already still mandating, like universities and other places. What are they thinking this bivalent booster that's made for the original virus and Omicron, what are they thinking that's going to do against Eris? I thought the entire point of the mRNA vaccine was that, ooh, yay, we can quickly make a new vaccine in like 24 hours. We'd be able to just turn around a new vaccine. Why wouldn't they then make this for Eris now, rather than saying, well, we think that the same old that we've been giving you, this bivalent, that's still going to work against Eris? Why would they do that? I'll tell you why. Because they've already made a bunch of it and they don't want to waste it. They'd rather sell it to you, even if it doesn't work, because, that hasn't stopped them before, and make a bunch of money off of these boosters when they could throw it all away and say, well, those don't work anymore. If they were actually, for one, if it actually worked, if against transmission, which we know, they're saying that the booster is going to help you with avoiding hospitalization and death. But they don't really know, because the Eris variant is new and the bivalent vaccine is not, and they haven't tested it against Eris. So they really don't know. But that's what we're expecting, is that there's going to be these fall boosters that are put out there. And, that's what we're going to be, dealing with, guys, is just more of this. One last thing with even, there's like hope at the end of the tunnel. There's a little bit of light, right? That makes us think maybe we're getting out of this pandemic. Novak Djokovic, he is the tennis superstar who was banned from coming in the United States because he's unvaccinated. He's caught COVID. He had natural immunity, which was fine in Europe, but the United States says no, because we are the big pharma country of the world. You have to be vaccinated before you can enter the United States. That is him in the United States. He is here, finally able to play tennis tournaments in the U.S. He's right now at the Cincinnati Masters. The U.S. Open is coming up, I believe August 28th is when it begins. Somewhere around that time frame is when the U.S. Open begins. Novak Djokovic this year has won the Australian Open. Remember, he was banned from playing in Australia also for the same reasons. They didn't let him in. He was deported out of Australia. He arrived. He was given the green light to show up, and then it was controversial in the country, and they kicked him out, and they wouldn't let him play. He was able to play this year. He won the Australian Open. He went to the French Open. He played in the French Open. He won the French Open. He went to Wimbledon. He took second in Wimbledon. He did not win, but he almost won. But there's like this stud superstar young Spaniard who is killing it in the tennis world, and he's just doing a great job. And now Novak Djokovic is in the United States. He's going to be playing at the U.S. Open, potentially could win the U.S. Open, very high chance. And so he's here. He's able to come into the country and actually play. So there's some light at the end of the tunnel that we might be finally here at the end of COVID saga. And yeah, you know, that's until they tell us to put your mask back on. But at least hopefully there won't be the vaccine mandates, right? They'll just say, we want you to get boosted. And maybe some places will mandate, but hopefully not at the border and whatnot. But I do believe you still have to get the vaccine if you want to become a citizen. I think they're still mandating that. You know, there's still some rules there. I would hope that the government lifted those because they did lift. They claimed all of the pandemic, you know, everything regarding the pandemic, the emergency pandemic orders or whatever were lifted. And so hopefully all of that is over with and done. But some good news, some interesting news, but we're still not out of the woods when it comes to COVID. All right, guys, let me tell you about tonight's sponsors. I really appreciate you guys watching the show tonight. Field of Greens. This is stuff that I absolutely love. It is made from it's a fine powder, really fine, made from dehydrated whole fruits and vegetables. They're carefully selected to give you the most nutrients in your diet. You just take a scoop of this powder, you mix it in your ice water or your iced tea, and it actually tastes really delicious. And it's an easy way to get all of your fruits and vegetables into your diet. Personally, I like the lemon lime flavor, but they also have a mixed berry. They have an energy version. It'll give you a little boost for your workout. They also have a natural flavor, which I also really like. I think that tastes more like a green tea, but I like the green tea with lemon taste, so that's why I prefer the lemon lime. But you can mix this into your foods, salad dressings, soups. There's a lot of ways you can use this, but it's a great way to get all of your fruits and vegetables into your diet easily. So head to fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code KIM to get 15% off your first order. Again, it is fieldofgreens.com, promo code KIM, to get 15% off your first order.